Our guest speakers, it's no surprise to some of us, but then again, some of you folks are new in the call. We want to welcome you. And if it's the first time you heard Mr. Dean Tarrolly, you're in for a treat. Let me kind of go down this list. This morning I was in the Word and I was reading Proverbs Greg Pramazano does the same thing. He reads the book of Proverbs every day because 31 books start over again. But the first sentence, the first paragraph, the first verse in Proverbs 21:1 remind me of our guest speaker, Mr. Dean Tarrolly. Now I'm just going to read half of that for you. It says, a good name, which he does have, a good name is rather be chosen than great riches. So he has a good name. What do you mean by that, Mr. Thomas? Well, let's see. He's a great father. He's a wonderful dad. I got that. He is a community leader in his area he lives in. Yes. He's also one of the trainers that I always call the co-founders go to because they know they can rely upon him. He's a Circle of Champions member as well as an influence. He was an actor. He was a bartender, but yet he brought those talents over to AC and just went crazy and built an international business. And here we are from Southern California. He may be in Baltimore by now. I don't know where he's at, but here we are live, Regional Vice President, none other than Mr. Dean Tarrolly.
I am here in Baltimore, red eye last night, and I am here ready to hang out with you guys and go over some stuff. I'm sorry that I missed you guys last week. I had some appointments that could not be moved. I tried to move them out in Eagle Rock, California yesterday or last Thursday, actually, and yesterday as well. So apologies about that, but here I am, and now you guys are stuck with me. You're stuck with me here for a minute. So I'm here in Baltimore, down Renaissance by the Inner Harbor. So before I get started, let me just say a couple words really quickly. Let me say a couple words really quickly about Mr. Thomas. You guys, you know how I feel about Mr. Thomas. We've been friends for a long time. We all go through stuff in our lives and in our businesses. And there was a window of time that I will never forget, that I was going through some challenges with my business and how it was building and developing leaders. And at an event that was in Vegas, I was done doing part of my training, and I just, asked Mr. Thomas for a few moments out in the hallway. And those few moments turned into quite a long conversation that I was very grateful for. So do not take his time for granted. Please do not take these calls for granted. My hope for you guys, I know that the last time we spoke, I may have spoken with a little bit of a different tenor than you're used to hearing me, maybe a little more serious, a little more, I don't want to say, maybe a little bit of anger on your behalf, because wanting this to happen for you. And sometimes we have to have those conversations, right? Sometimes tough conversations, they're hard, but you want to know what? They lead to a better place, and they lead to like an understanding, and they lead to, your ability to see what's right in front of you. And that goes to any aspect of life, right? So I have some notes to go over with you guys. I'm excited to be able to share some of this with you, and I hope that it resonates. So, Mr. Thomas, I'm grateful, always have been, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to be on here every other month now. What are we on? Year what? We're in like year 3. By the way, if I would have been Mr. Thomas, I would have said this. I would have done it just like this. I would have said, hang on one second. I got something blocking my view here. Let me fix this.
I've only done it 1 year so far. So just 1 year. That's all.
Okay. That is it. First of all, that is a bold-faced lie. I'm telling you right now. And that's recorded. So number one, all of you who've been with Mr. Thomas for a while, you already know that we're right. Christine is right. Going into our 4th year. So here's how Mr. Thomas would do that. We're going into what? We're going into what? We're going into what? Our 4th year, our 4th year, our 4th year, our 4th year. So, anyway, we'll leave it at that. All right. So there you go. Let me, that was my best attempt at being able to do the good morning, good morning, good morning. So anyway, give that a shot. So let me give you guys some thoughts for today. So something I talked about a long time ago, in one of these Zooms, I talked about this idea of training, right? we wanted this to be a month where, I know we like to talk about, and I don't know when this started at the end of all of Mr. Thomas's calls. What are you going to do to advance your business? I think I talked about advancing your business probably at the end of the first year and something like that. And he sort of like, I don't want to say adopted it, but it's a great way to end the call is what are you going to do to advance your business? And I want to just talk to you guys today about the difference between effort and result, right? And you cannot have a result without effort, right? It's not possible. Well, actually, that's true. You can have zero result, but anything that's measurable is going to take some effort. Okay. And it's such an important concept to understand in all parts of what we do is if nothing is changing in the books, meaning if nothing is happening to advance your business, that by default, that means one of two things. Either there's no effort being put in, or the efforts that you are putting in need to be enhanced. They need to be improved. They need to be changed. So I was going through all these things that we've talked about over the years, and the thing that kept coming back to me was the football coach, Jimbo Fisher. And many of you have heard me refer to this quote before, but I think it's really good. And I think it is important to understand. And at the time, he's the coach of Texas A&M right now. It doesn't matter. At the time, he was the coach at Florida State. And they were down, the Florida State Seminoles were down by a ton at halftime. And the team came back and they won this game. And I'm not going to go into details on that other than to say this. At the end of the game, when Florida State had come back and won, Coach Fisher was interviewed on the sideline. And I love coach interviews. You guys have seen me like reference Coach Saban. You've heard, I've done it a bunch of times. Okay. And here's what he said. Please, I would encourage you to write this down. It's in my notes in my phone, and I see it all the time. I'm going to encourage you to write this down. And here's what he said. He said, you don't win because you want to. You win because you train to. You don't win because you want to. You win because you train to. You're training yourself to win. So why is that so important? Right? You don't win because you want to. You win because you train to. Okay? You don't sweat the test when you've done the homework. If you've done the homework, the test is not a big deal because you know what you know the information. I mean, look, you could be, look, check this out, you guys. We know who this is. There we go. I made sure I had my coffee. I got my latte in my hand. By the way, look at that logo that you guys all know, Starbucks, right? Okay. Those guys have to train to make that coffee. It's not like you and I putting coffee in a machine and then we pour it. Like they have to train to make a latte. They have to train to make all this stuff. They have to train. When I was in the restaurant, when I was always behind the bar, I had to train. And a lot of times you get trained before you get paid, right? Like there is training involved, and your ability and my ability to be able to do this business and to do the business well, so much of it falls on our ability and our training. But you win, right? Because you're training yourself to win. So everybody wants to win. Wanting to win is not a big deal, right? Everybody wants to win. There's no question about it. I want to win. You want to win. We all want to win. That's not the issue. Wanting it. Now, if somebody doesn't want to win, then I don't really even know why they're doing this, right? And by the way, winning can be a lot of things. Winning can just be putting yourself in an environment with people that you feel better around. That's a win. That's a win, right? Winning can take on so many different kind of manifestations, if you will. but you don't win because you want to, you win because you train to. And, I love the fact that Mr. Thomas, when we get inside of a month of an international training, that's in every conversation. He does a countdown of the number of days until we get to the international training. Why? It's that important. So he says, you don't win because you want to, you win because you train to. So here's the second part of that. And this is, I think, a super important part for all of us, for you and for me. Here goes. Please write this down. Efforts get acknowledged, results get rewarded. Efforts get acknowledged, results get rewarded. So let's talk about that. Everybody wants, hey, good job, you did great. Great presentation, right? Great seeing you at the event, right? Like this is like efforts get acknowledged, and we want that. People love, people, they'll work for a paycheck, but they'll live and die for recognition. So efforts get acknowledged, results get rewarded. So now we're going to tie these two together, especially as it pertains to your specific and our specific business that we're in. If efforts get acknowledged and results get rewarded, there's a question that has to be asked. If you win, you don't win because you want to, you win because you train to. What's the most important part about that? It's the winning, right? Winning is the result we're looking for. So you have to have a critical eye and look at what it is that you're doing and be able to analyze and identify whether or not the efforts that you're putting in and the actions that you are putting in are getting you and warranting you the results that you want. So the second half of you don't win because you want to, you win because you train to, you guys have to remember, efforts get acknowledged, results get rewarded. Efforts get acknowledged, results get rewarded. Efforts get acknowledged, results get rewarded. Are you an ACN for acknowledgement, or are you an ACN for the reward? And that is a very specific question. And if your choice is to be acknowledged, that's awesome. That's great. Then just don't hold ACN to a standard of providing for yourself and your family and your bills and the things that are important to you, because that's an acknowledgement. Hey, good job. You talked to that person. Awesome. See, there's two halves of that. Hey, how about, you guys ever have somebody in your business that says this? Hey, I piqued someone today. Aren't you supposed to? Like, aren't you supposed to do that if we're in this business? Efforts get acknowledged, results get rewarded. So the second half of that would be, great. When are you meeting them? What presentation are they getting on? Did you present to them? Did you get them on the phone with the leader that you're working with, right? Now we're talking about some tangible results, because ultimately, you guys, in your businesses, hey, Magda, in your businesses, you guys, if a customer hasn't hit the books or a presentation has not taken place, right? That's a challenge. That is a challenge. If a customer has not hit the books and a presentation has not taken place, that is a challenge. Okay? Because what we're doing is we're setting up the result. And I agree that has to happen, but we have to see it through, that follow through. You guys have heard this. I'm not trying to get cliche. The fortune is in the follow-up, right? How many people, including myself, how many of us have gone out and we've piqued someone's interest, and for whatever reason, the follow-up just didn't take place the way that it should have. And we have every sort of reason and justification as to why it didn't happen. And that's okay. It's only not okay if you don't recognize it and do something about it. But if you recognize it and you do something about it, now you can fix it. And now you can have a method of operation that takes you from piquing someone's interest to following up with them, to getting them in front of the information. And now we can start to create a ratio, because now we're putting them through the process. So you guys write this down. The process is preeminent. The process. But that process doesn't stop at effort. That process ultimately concludes with result. What is the result of the process and the effort that we put in? What is your result? And I think more often than not, what you'll find is the thing that's holding us back, and the thing that's kind of like keeping us from where it is ultimately that we know we can go in ACN, has very little to do with talent, and it has almost everything to do with effort. It has very little to do with talent, and it has almost everything to do with effort. Right? So one of the things that happens, and these are notes that I got from Tony Kupas, co-founder of ACN, at master trainer on all of this. And effort is greater than talent. So guess what that means? Thank God for all of us. We don't have to be the most talented person, but everybody can put in an effort. You can control your effort, right? You know, for some people, we need to stop talking about our limitations and start talking about our capabilities. Everybody on this call is capable of building an ACN business. Why? Because you guys have all gotten customers, and you guys have all piqued people that have been interested in learning more. That's it. That's it. And then we put them through the process, and how it ends for them is how it ends for them. How it lands for them is how it lands for them. If they choose to do it or not do it, that's entirely up to them, right? The information is the information. So just understand, you guys, that sometimes what we do in our journey in building this ACN business, you guys, sometimes has anybody ever heard this phrase? A little information is sometimes more dangerous than no information. Have you guys ever heard that? Like sometimes, like, in other words, what that phrase is saying is that we have the ability, once we learn a little bit of information, to turn it into a lot of information. And if you give people too much information, it makes them kind of feel inadequate. It makes them feel like they could never do this. We want people to look at us and go, that's it? That's all you do? Yeah, we get customers, we build teams, we help other people do the same thing. I can do it, you can do it. I didn't have any skills in this thing. There's nothing special about me, right? And now they can relate to, you're on the same level with them. They're on the same level with you, right? And there's, you know, this is kind of a genius move, you guys. You don't want to dumb yourself down, but what you do want to do is make yourself relatable and accessible so people can feel like they can do what you do. Where does this thing all, where am I going with all of this from where I started? Because you guys know everything is going to come full circle in this. So if you can get really good at having normal conversations with people, being genuinely excited, where your effort is more impactful than your knowledge, right? And you're going to find that your efforts are going to be acknowledged. And if you follow through, you will get results that will be rewarded. And you're going to see a bunch of people get rewarded at the event this weekend, whether you're streaming it or hopefully here with us in person in Baltimore, Maryland, the Inner Harbor here. You guys, do not get this part twisted. And I'll end with this. If efforts get acknowledged and results get rewarded, you have a system within ACN that allows us to build from event to event to event. So one of the questions for you, here's a result. How many people are you going to have at the next international training, whenever and wherever that is? How many teams are you going to have represented at the next international training, whenever and wherever that is? Right? Like, you guys, and people are only going to do what you do. They're not going to do what you say. So we need to be in that business of leading by example. It's so important to understand that we want to be in a business of tangible, trackable, recordable, provable results. That separates you from almost everybody who ever gets involved in a networking company. You want to be process-oriented, but result-driven. So the process is super important, but the process exists ultimately to get you a result. So I hope that this is helpful, you guys. I hope that look, I'm not going to teach you guys right now about how to peak someone and how to sign up a customer and huge favor and all that. That stuff you know. That stuff you know. Let's talk about getting you into the result phase. Now, look, you have to get no's, and you have to get people that pass, and you have to get people that aren't interested, and you have to get people that say, I don't want to talk about it. Those things are necessary. You have to get those things. You have to. You have to. They're inevitable, and they are a part of what this is. So I hope that you guys understand that when you are, look, let me tell you something. You guys get 20 no's in a row, you're on your way. You're on your way, because now it's not an effort issue. It could be a little tweak in the language, and we can fix that. But if you don't have 20 no's, if you don't have 10 no's, if you don't have 5 no's, it's impossible for you to get a yes, because the ratios don't work that way. Right? Jim Rohn said it, right? The late Jim Rohn. 1 out of 10 is great. 2 out of 10, terrific. 3 out of 10, awesome. Well, you know what? 3 out of 10 is about as good as he got, and he is a master at this business. So allow yourself that opportunity to go through those numbers, right? And make sure that you're putting in the effort so it gets acknowledged, and let's get you in a position to get you results that get rewarded and get you where you have made a decision to go. My last point I want to share with you guys is this. Please have a goal that you're shooting towards, a point goal, a position goal, and put a timeline on it. I'm going to be at this position by this time. I'm going to have this many points by this time. And now you have a tangible, real goal that you are shooting for that ultimately will be a result that will reward you, not just an effort that will get you acknowledged. So we want to be in that result position. So that's what I wanted to share with you, Mr. Thomas. I hope that was helpful. I hope that people got something out of this. We want to get people results, man. And I know that you're an expert at this, and this just was that was really on my mind to talk to people about today. So I will turn this back over to you, and it is it's going to be a great weekend, man. I can't wait to see you. Can't wait to hear what the announcements are. Can't wait to hear what the company is going to unveil. And yeah, man, it's going to be great. So Mr. T, I will turn this back over to you, my friend.